He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 11 of Sun Coaches Podcast, and today I have got with me a sitting head coach, Coach Frank Killingsworth from Early County High School, deep down in southwest Georgia. I worked with Coach Killingsworth for about 5 or 6 years while I was down at Early County. He is a good friend of mine. He's got over 30 years of experience in the business. He's been an administrator. He spent most of his career down in southwest Georgia. He's one of my best friends, and more importantly, he's just one of the best people I've ever met. Coach, I sure appreciate you being on.
Oh, it's great to be on. Great to be on, Doctor. I tell you what, there's nothing like being able to talk football in school. The general public don't believe our stories, but by God, they're absolutely true.
Coach, could you tell everybody like how you got started? Where was the first place? When did you start coaching? First of all, like where was the first place you started coaching?
Well, first of all, let me tell you how I got into coaching and how I disappointed my whole family. I was a pre-law major, and I was going into my last year of college, and one of the finest coaches and people I ever knew, a guy I lived with in Thomasville, Ronnie Jones, invited me to come down for 2 weeks and help coach a little football because one of his coaches was out. I went down there and did it and fell in love with it and had to go home and tell my mama and daddy that I wasn't going to be a lawyer. I was going to be a football coach. And graduated from college. Oh, they were proud. And they said, son, how you going to make a living? I said, coaching. And they went, again, how you going to make a living? But I got out of school. Of course, I didn't have a certification. I started at a place called Greenfield Academy in a place called Weston, Georgia. Now, Weston, Georgia is somewhere between Albany and Columbus. They're not quite sure where it's at, but because it's so little, ain't a whole lot to it. How little was the school? Well, the fire extinguisher man came to check the fire extinguisher, and we had one working fire extinguisher, and the principal would talk to the man, and I would replace the fire extinguisher. That man looked at the same fire extinguisher 10 times and checked it off. So that's how little it was. But that was my first experience at coaching and teaching, was there at Greenfield, and then I went to Westwood, and oh my gosh, it was still in the 1900s. It was 1987. I know. It was back before they invented sunshine. It was a long time ago. And I went from there to Westwood in Camilla and worked for Graham Lowe, one of the winningest coaches there ever was. He was a heck of a coach. And then I went to Calhoun County with Ronnie Jones again for 6 years and was the head coach there for 3. And I went to Miller County and had the honor of working with Ronnie McNeese in Miller County. Ronnie retired, and I took. He's a legend. Oh my gosh, he was a legend. One of the finest humans I've ever known. Would do anything in the world for you. Give you the shirt off his back. And taken before his time. But I was there 18 years, head coach for 7. And Trey Wolf got me to come over to Early County and work with a baseball coach there. They had a guy named Christopher Lamb, the one of the greatest baseball coaches ever. And I had a big time doing that now. Lamb's only problem was he liked to talk to the team when it was cold. It'd be darn 6 degrees out there, the wind would be blowing, and Lamb would get philosophical out there in the middle of the field. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get some frostbite. I know that.
I know how you feel about cold weather.
Yeah, I hate cold weather. I think either I was before life, either I lived close to the equator or I was one of those Bedouins that go around on the camels. Cause it gets below 70, I'm cold. I ain't gonna lie.
No, I can attest to that.
Yeah, we'd be out there and that wind would be blowing out there on that baseball field. Good Lord, have mercy. But and then fortunate enough to work with Trey, then Joel Harvin, and then Joel left and I took over as head coach this past year at Early County. I got a good bunch of coaches, got a good bunch of kids. Hopefully we can replicate the effort again this year. It's gonna be a little bit tougher, but hopefully we can.
Well, how much has
So that
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Ask away.
I was just going to ask how much over the 30 plus years you've been doing it. I mean, just how much have things changed as far as the game? So
Well,
just like coaching and kids and.
Well, the like you said, the game hasn't changed. It's still blocking and tackling and running, and I don't care what level you're at. I don't care if you're in the NFL or if you're in college or where. It's all about blocking, tackling, and running. And the thing that's changed the most, I believe, is the attention span of the children. Their attention span is just so short, and I attribute that to the internet, all these games they play, and that makes it tougher. It makes it tougher to teach them, and also I believe that I'm gonna get in trouble for what I'm fixing to say next, so you might want to delete this. The single parent household without the male figure in the household, it makes it difficult for boys. I just believe that, and you see it more and more now than you did back in the 90s. It's just more prevalent. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just how society has evolved. But the kids are the same. The kids are basically the same, and I don't know. It's harder to get kids to work because they have other things they can do. And we got a lot of kids that are addicted to Freon. They like sitting in the air conditioner, and they don't get outside much. I got a buddy of mine down at Miller County. It was my defensive coordinator, Jason Houston. One Saturday morning, he called me up like at 8 o'clock in the morning, woke me up, and said, "Hey, Kill, guess what I just saw?" I didn't know. I'm going to tell him. He said, "I saw 4 kids out playing in a tree, driving down the road." And the thing about it, you don't see that much anymore. You don't see the kids out climbing trees and running. And it all goes back, I believe, to the internet, technology, and that kind of thing. Well, so that's the only difference. The game hadn't changed. The kids are basically the same. It's just the environment they're raised in, I believe, has changed.
Now, you spent your early years working with Ronnie Jones. Give me what's one of the best stories you got from Coach Jones?
Oh my gosh. Well, first I'll tell you this one. I actually moved in with Coach Jones and his wife Beth there in Thomasville because he had coached me in Phoenix City. He was just real good friends with my mama and daddy. Him and Beth were. And my senior year, I went down there to school, and thank goodness I did, because I couldn't have passed college if I hadn't had that 1 year at Brookwood. Anyway, so me and Jones are up. He stays up to all hours of the night watching TV. So we were up watching a scary movie one night. And, let me back up. His wife taught CPR and had the dummies, the little mannequins, for you folks that are certified as Annie. Remember Annie? Wake up, Annie. She never did wake up. But anyway, so we watched a scary movie, and he gets up and goes up front for a little bit and comes back. I come back at the end of the movie and open my closet, and he has stuck one of them mannequins in my closet. I swear, and I've had a heart attack here lately, and I thought my heart had stopped back then. It was terrible. And he would do stuff like that. He'd take those mannequins and put them in the house and say it was the old lady next door. But I'll tell you this story. Me and Jones, we were at Calhoun County together. So he had this idea that he was going to get a black wreath and send it to the pep rally there at Calhoun County. Well, most folks don't know about Calhoun County. Calhoun County is in the middle of nowhere. Everything down here is in the middle of nowhere. We're all at least an hour from the nearest Walmart. But anyway, he sends that black wreath to the pep rally. And the old folks walk in with the black wreath, and he goes over there. He's acting like he's mad. And he reads the card. It said, I forgot who we were, it might have been Macon County. I think it was Macon County when they had all them animals. CB Cornett was over there, and they had, it looked like they were in the NFL. The huge people. And the card said, "This is for y'all because tonight's your last night on earth." And he acted like he was mad and threw the thing down and kicked the wreath, trying to get the boys fired up. Well, we didn't know a whole lot about Calhoun County. Well, it had the complete opposite effect. Our kids were deathly afraid. Our kids actually thought they were coming to kill us. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty at all. It was not. But we had all kind of stuff like that. That backfired. Oh, it was tremendous. We made a mental note. From now on, don't do stuff like that. Some places that works. It don't at Calhoun. Not then. Not 1990. But yeah, but Ronnie Jones he's hilarious, and folks around the state know him. Heck of a football coach too. Heck of a football coach.
Y'all have an all-star staff at Miller County. Coach Mack.
We did.
You, Coach Ingram. Who else was on
it was for for 3 years when we had Charles Grant and all them. It was just me, Alan, and Ronnie. And later on, Ronnie's son came to coach with us some. Jason Houston, who became my defensive coordinator, he finally came over. He came back home. But for 3 years, it was us. And I'm telling you now, that was back in the day when it was just different. It was just different. We did live punt returns, and there'd be folks peeling back on folks. Nowadays, you couldn't get away with that without getting sent to jail. But I'll never forget, we were sitting there one day, and the tornadoes broke out down here. We always have hurricanes and tornadoes, and there was tornadoes like you could see them go over the field, like spinning. And so me and Ronnie and Alan are sitting there in the old field house. We're standing outside, and Ronnie was sitting there and he was smoking a cigarette. Back then we smoked cigarettes. And he looked up and said, "What you think it's going to do? You think we ought to send them home?" I said, "Look, it looks like there's a break in them." I said, "Let's send them home." Alan said, "Yeah." He said, "I don't know." He said, "We need to call somebody. What's the number to 911? Now, if you hold that just for a second, and me and Alan looked at each other and said, "Dang it, Ronnie, it's 911. Oh, I can't tell you what he said, but he wanted to know how to get in touch with the folks at 911. I said, well, hell, Ronnie, just call 911. Let's see what they'll say. But he wanted to know that it was. We had a big time. The three of us coaching, and Alan coached defense and then some offensive line. I was the offensive coordinator and coached linebackers, and Ronnie coached DBs. And the great thing about Ronnie is Ronnie only worked on kickoff return for 1 week during the preseason. That was it. We didn't work on it any during the season. And I asked him one time, I said, "Hey, doctor," I said, "how come we don't work on kickoff return?" He said, "Well, if you got to work on kickoff return, that means they scored a lot of points." He said, "and then it really don't matter." I said, "I got you, doctor." So we did not work on kickoff return. But those years we really didn't need it a whole lot. I know we went like 4 games and never punted. That was pretty good.
Well, back
but
then,
that was
everybody had to coach everything, especially when you're at a single A school. I mean, everybody's coaching everything.
And everybody's coaching everything, and that's why I tell these young coaches, they come out and I go, well, coach, what do you coach? I'm a defensive back coach. Really? Yeah, I coach defensive backs. I coach corners. I coach linebackers, or I coach the left tackle. Well, to me, I think these coaches are missing out. I came up on the defensive side of the ball. Well, because I had to coach everything and know everything over on the defensive side, I learned offense because I had to figure out what the offense would try to do versus whatever defense we put out there. So I eventually morphed into an offensive coach. These coaches nowadays, they want to learn one specific position, and they're not big into, they don't understand schemes or basic schemes. They want to throw all this cover 12 with a rotating star and all this stuff out there. Football's a basic game, and these kids have to learn the basics, and these kids don't know the basics. Which brings me to my latest. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say,
which leads me to
when I got down to early, it was 4-4 cover 0. That's all Mo did.
4-4. Yeah, 4-4. And you teach the kids to cover man. You teach the kids to tackle, and you teach them to get hands on and run to the football. Go run to it. It's a simple game. That guy's got it. Go hit him. And it's pretty simple. But all that scheme and stuff, that brings me to my latest research I've been doing. I like to research stuff and try to like Lamb, try to find the end of the internet. And I have come up with this that I have found out that I did not know, that the human brain wrinkles as it learns. The more you learn, the more wrinkles and folds that you have in your brain. And I have come to the conclusion that some of these football players that we coach have smooth brains. They're just like bowling ball brains, So that's going to be my new thing. Is when these kids, I'm going to look at them and go, hey, that one's got a smooth brain right there, because it's a smooth brain. But I did not know that. Did you know that about the wrinkles?
I was unaware.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
That is it. I love it.
Look it up. If you don't believe me.
That sounds about right. And we had some cue ball, bowling ball jokers when we were down there together. Both football and
straight. Lord have mercy. Yeah.
Well, a lot of these Metro Atlanta guys and other people, they make fun of us South Georgia guys, and they're like, yeah, down there they just play country cover 3 or cover 0. Well, there's something to be said for that. It's simple. You don't want those jokers having to think a lot. They're high school kids. Don't paralysis by analysis, number one. Number two, you're coaching at a single A, very rarely a double A school because there's not many big schools down there. But single A school, those kids are playing 4 different positions because they're on all the special teams. They're playing offense and defense. Don't give them a whole lot to think about on defense.
Exactly.
Run and hit.
We were down there at Miller. Yeah, run and hit. We were working down there at Miller County, and you got to teach them everything. We were working, and we played Headland, Alabama. We're all right down here up against Alabama and Florida. We can smell them from the house. And we were sitting there, and they ran a reverse. They ran a reverse every game. So we had this. We were an 5-2. With stand-up ends, and we told the old boy over there, said, all right, son, they're going to run the reverse. He's going to come right back to you. And we'd every now and then just run it in practice, just throw it in there right quick. And I'd always blow the whistle because, I just blow the whistle. And just make sure the kid was standing there. Well, we get in the game, and they get in the formation. We know it's coming. We holler. The old boy looks over there and gives us a thumbs up. He knows it's coming. They run the reverse. My boy sitting there has a perfect defensive end stance. Knees are slightly bent. Arms are dangling. He's in a good hitting position. And the running back runs right by him. and we tackled him for about a 35-yard gain. And we call him over there, and we said, look here, what are you doing? He said, Coach, I did exactly what you told me to do. I sat there and waited on the reverse. And we realized that this young man his brain was really smooth. We never let him tackle the guy. We just told him to be there for the reverse. And he was right there. So there you go. You got to teach them. And if you're sitting there teaching them too much, they ain't going to learn it.
He did what you
I don't know what was
do.
worse. He did exactly what we told him to do. And so we couldn't be mad with him. Had another one. So we working on pooch kicks. The pooch kick. And a lot of folks out there, they see folks pooch kicking, they think it's a strategy. Nope, we just can't cover. We just can't cover the kickoff, so we pooch it. So we're working on it. And like everybody else, we take an offensive lineman and sit over there and let him catch the pooch kick when the kicker pooches it over there. And we got the kids out there, they run down the field, they stop right there at the lineman. Well, we get in the ball game, and we pooch that thing there, and that ball hits the ground, and the old boy doesn't catch it. It just sits there. Well, my kid runs down there and stands there and looks at it too. So you got the return guy looking at the ball, my kid looking at the ball, nobody's getting on the ball. Finally, somebody knew what was going on, came over there and jumped on the ball for the other team. And I told the kid, I said, what are you doing? He said, I was waiting on him to pick up that ball, Coach. I had failed to tell him that if the ball was on the ground when we pooched it over there, to get on the ball, because we had the fat lineman catching the ball every time. So yeah. I think that happens a lot at every level. And the simpler the game, the more of that you can eradicate.
All right, well, I'm gonna butt in right here and tell this story. And I'm gonna do this a few times with you since we work together. And I've told this story to people, and they don't believe it. And it's probably better in person to demonstrate it. So people that are listening are gonna have to use their imagination to visualize this. And I hope you remember when this happened. Coach Wolf, Trey has sent me and you down there to go deal with punt. So we had the younger kid, we tried to get some, scrubby dub, younger guys involved on special teams. Mm-hmm. And you were back there with the back wall, and we did spread, regular, and tight. And we'd done the spread, everything was fine. And we brought them in the regular, and I was dealing with the front line, and you had the back guys, the back wall, and the punter. And we had the older kids were kind of standing over there, kind of showing them where their lanes were going to be. And I said, the boy got in a 3-point stance. Mm-hmm. I said, no, baby, no, get in a 2-point stance. And he lifted his hand up, turned his head and looked at me, looked at his hand, made 2 fingers, and then put those 2 fingers right back on the ground.
It absolutely happened.
And I looked at you, and you just started laughing. All those older kids just fell out on the ground, dying laughing. And the poor little baby said, well, Coach, ain't nobody ever told me before what a 2-point stance was.
There you go. It happened. It absolutely happened. Let me expound.
At the ground.
At the ground. Did a peace sign and put them down. Let me expound on this young man if I can. This young man played right field for my JV baseball team that he's talking about that put the 2 fingers down. And we taught him, when the ball comes to hit you, you catch it and you throw it to the second baseman. So we'd be out there in practice. We'd hit it out there in the right field. He'd catch that thing. He'd throw it to that little second baseman. Every time. Boom, boom. Had it down pat. Well, we were over at Dothan, Alabama, playing a little old private school over there, and they hit a pop fly just over the second baseman's head. Well, the second baseman was out there running like a wild man, and my right fielder, who put the 2 fingers down, is running like a wild man after the ball. Well, it goes over the second baseman's head when my right fielder scoops that thing up. Well, they pass right there amongst the ball. And so basically the second baseman ended up in right field, and my right fielder ended up there where about second base would be. Well, my right fielder with the ball turns and throws it back to the second baseman out there in right field. Well, I sat there and I was fixing to say something, and I realized that he did exactly what we taught him. He threw it to the second baseman. Now, I guess if that second baseman had gone up there to the concession stand and bought him some good boiled peanuts and a Coca-Cola, he would have slung it up there too. I don't know. But all I know is he threw that thing back out in right field. You know, and of course all the parents were going, "Well, what's he doing? What's he doing?" And I said, "Shh, he's doing exactly what we told him to do."
He's well coached.
He is well coached. He is well coached.
And I've told people for years, I'm like, listen, we didn't have baseball players. We might have had two. We had athletes that we taught how to play baseball, and they were pretty. They weren't bad. You know, they could hold their own, and we played really tough non-region schedule, and because our region schedule was bad enough, you know, with Thomasville, Fitzgerald, and Berrien, and then Brooks was the other team in our region. So, you know, I always scheduled, you know, I knew to try to get ready for the playoffs. And I just tell them, I'm like, look, we had hella athletes. They just weren't, you know, they didn't grow up. Baseball was like a secondary sport. I said, man, it was like being in a witness protection program. I could walk through Blakely, and people knew I coached. And they're like, well, Coach, what do you do in the springtime? Oh, I coach baseball. Hey, we got a baseball team? Man, that's great.
Yeah, great. Well, I bet them boys have a big time. When's football practice start?
Yeah. What them boys going to look like on Friday this fall, Coach?
Yeah. And the thing about it is, I don't know, we just had a good time. And, you know, at some point, I think, especially and I know I'm harping on the young coaches. I guess I used to be a young coach too. I used to be the one that had to read the phone book. I don't know if folks know what a phone book is nowadays, but I had to read it. Anyway, they think that they forget that the game's a game. You know, you're supposed to have some fun at some point. And it doesn't matter if it's baseball, basketball, the one they do where they got the stick that throws the ball. What's that, lacrosse or football or anything like that? You gotta, at some point, you gotta have fun, and you gotta have fun with the kids. You gotta laugh with the kids, because if you don't, you will go absolutely insane. Because they will drive you insane.
We had some dudes between Ladarius Till, Calvin Brown. You got Jay Cooper up there that looks like a 34-year-old man. Ward number 34. I remember the other teams would be like, "Hey man, is that your age you wearing on your shirt?" And then we'd drive to places and they'd go, "Early County, we thought we was playing a baseball team, not a football team." Well, actually, since you brought that up, he's our starting left tackle. Our starting defensive tackle is our first baseman. Our shortstop is the quarterback. Only the catcher and the second baseman were the only two kids we had that didn't start on the football team.
Well, the football team, yeah.
I mean, we looked like a football team. We didn't have no fighters.
We were huge.
To fight us.
No, no. Oh gosh, no. Nobody threw at us, but it was.
And they were good youngins. God, I miss those kids. They were.
Oh yes.
I mean,
and they turned out to be good young men.
My favorite kid ever. I mean, I love Trip. Like, he was my favorite. I wouldn't even close.
Hey, now that we've gone through time and like the Kennedy thing, the time's gone by. We can tell stuff. Has he ever told you about Mount Vesuvius?
No.
Trip. Really? All right. So whenever you would get all upset and get all ticked off, you never went straight from 0 to 100. You would always kind of build. You'd build up to it, to a crescendo of anger and rage. So me and Trip would be back there talking, and we would predict what it was going to be. If it was going to be just a little tremor, or if it was going to be just a little thunder shower, or if it was going to be a Mount Vesuvius. which was the scorched earth. And we sit back there, and he go, Coach Kill. I go, what trip? He said, he's finna go Mount Vesuvius. I said, you think? He went, oh yeah, Coach, he's fixing to go. And sure enough, you get out there and you would go Mount Vesuvius.
I love that.
Oh gosh,
Johns,
yes.
I mean, Mason Johns is one of my favorite kids I've ever coached, one of the best I've ever coached. You know, he and coaching those kids helped me develop a huge distaste for college coaches and the scouting process, because there's no way they shouldn't have been playing places. You know, we were so deep down there in the woods that they didn't get the same exposure as other people, and I'd take them places, and I'd sit there and listen to the other guys going, well, he's better than anybody we got. And then the coach would be like, oh, well, I just don't know. I'm like, this kid's smart. He's number 2 in his class. He's going to be free. He's a Zell Miller kid. You don't think he can play here? Well, hell, this might be why y'all ain't winning no games here at ABAC or wherever, wherever we went.
You know, and those kids have turned out to be good young men.
Oh, well, they had good mamas and daddies. I mean, they came to us good already.
Yeah.
Calvin Brown still calls me Pops. Still calls me Pops. I miss those kids. And, those guys, they're easy to coach. I mean, that's another thing about kids, the South Georgia kids. They're pretty easy to deal with.
Yeah, and they're tough. I know folks that's left South Georgia and gone other places up in other parts of the state and just had problems because their kids just aren't as tough. You can't coach outside of Southwest Georgia the way we can coach in Southwest Georgia. And I'm not saying that as a derogatory thing that we're just out here doing all kind of terrible stuff, but we can put more pressure on our kids. We take them out, and of course we're within the heat guidelines, but it gets really pretty scorching out here, and still you can practice, and we're out there getting after it, and our kids are just getting after it.
Well, their parents expect
that's all they know.
To be that hard on them. Their parents don't baby.
Cause
their parents expect you to hammer their heads. They don't baby them. They get mad if you try to take up for them. You're like, whoa, hold on now. We need to back off of them a little bit. No, you don't. You better tear my baby's butt up. And plus, the thing that was cool to me, and I know you probably got this at Miller, the thing that was cool to me about early coach was they had Trey and Mo and all of them, and Craig and all of them had been together for so long, they were starting to get into second generational kids. They had coached, I heard Kerry tell a bunch, Kerry Morris was our DC. I'd heard him tell a bunch of them youngins, I whipped your daddy's behind, I'll beat your behind. I mean, and the daddy would be like, and I expect him to, It's just a different mindset.
And, I think young coaches nowadays coming out, I think their mindset is that I need to be this highly technical guy that's going to go out and preach technique and preach scheme and all that, and they don't preach toughness. Every now and then in practice, I think you got to have something called a bloodletting. Now, as a history man, let me tell you what a bloodletting is. Back in the old days, they thought that if you were sick, you had to get the impurities out of the blood, so you just drain a little blood out, and the impurities would go with it. Well, sometime in football practice, you got to get out there and go one-on-one, and you got to just hit each other to beat the impurities out of each other, and it makes you tougher. It makes you tougher. If it's tough in practice, it's easy in the game. If the game is harder than practice, then we're not practicing right. I believe that.
Well, I got some other stories that you and I were both involved in. I remember you worked down in a part of the school called the Dungeon.
The Dungeon, I did. I love the Dungeon.
And you were teaching econ and world history. And we had a math teacher that was a tap teacher, and she lasted about 2 weeks, and she tapped out at 9:30 during break on a Tuesday. And our principal came and asked me to teach math.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, sure, if you'll leave me alone. He said, yeah, ain't no problem. I got to have you. So I started teaching math. Well, anyway, me and Kill start. I got one of my sweet, sweet babies. I said, hey, man, go down there to Coach Kill's class. He's on the opposite end of the school. Go down there to Coach Kill's class.
Which is about 200 yards away, by the way.
Oh, yeah, and just in the middle of class. And there wasn't no wandering around our school. I mean, when the bells rang, they were in class. Don't let them out for anything. There wasn't none of this weird bathroom break or nothing. No. No. You in there teaching and learning. So I send this young man down to Coach Kill's class. Go down there and ask Coach Kill if he's got that left-handed stapler that I let him borrow. But yes, sir, absolutely. So he goes on down there. Antonio, what was that boy's name? Anyway, send him down there. Well, he comes back about 5 minutes later. Hey, man, you got that stapler? No, Coach Kill sent me back. He said he ain't got that stapler, but he wanted to know if you had that light bulb oil he sent down here to you. And we sent him back and forth. And finally, Mr. Yarber pulled me off to the side. He said, if I see that boy walk up and down this hallway one more time, looking for some stupid whatever you and Keel got him looking for, I'm gonna get both of y'all.
Oh, we had him looking for a bag of curveballs, the key to the batter's box, brick stretchers, everything.
Absolutely.
Oh, those were the days.
And I was co-teaching. Before that, I was special ed co-teaching, and they put me in Keel's class, and he was teaching world history. And these kids were taking notes. And now, I was in there, so it wasn't your Rhodes Scholars. And
a lot of smooth brains.
A lot of smooth brains. And you were up there and I've told everybody this story, about what a great teacher I thought you were, how you were able to just, Ron whisper. And you're up there talking about Prince Henry the Navigator. And I would get So I would just raise my hand. And the kids are sitting there taking notes. They're writing in their little graphic organizer you had for them or whatever. And I'd raise my hand, and you go, yes, Coach Lamb. And I'd go, Coach, didn't he play for y'all at Calhoun County? And you go, he sure did. He was our starting shortstop and our slot receiver at Calhoun County. And those kids would be like, well, how about that? And you'd be like, yeah, his brother lived on that dirt road down there, and it didn't matter. It could have been Adolf Hitler. It could have been President
anybody.
John F. Kennedy. It could have been anybody in world history, and I could raise my hand and say, Coach Kill, did you coach him? And every time you wouldn't even miss a beat, you go, yes, he was our quarterback on the 19 whatever. And the kids never admit, and they go, oh, how about that? And then you'd be like, and their mama and them still live. If you go down that dirt road past that meat processing plant, not the first one.
And some of those kids go, I know, Coach. I know where that's at.
Yeah, he dated my aunt. I mean, they would be in there. But the best of all time, and I almost interrupted you earlier when you said about the kids playing in the trees. The best thing you ever did, and it almost caused a fist fight in class. When you showed that YouTube thing about the man with the marshmallow trees.
The marshmallow trees. Yes. It was terrible. All that rain, marshmallows, ain't gonna make a crop.
They got to rot. All right, so for those of y'all that have never seen this video, Kill has found, because as he said previously, he don't mind trying to get to the end of the internet. So Kill has found this YouTube video of this farmer in North Carolina, and they had made it. It's from the 80s, early 80s, and it made it look like a real, like an actual news story. And this guy has got some peach trees in the wintertime, and he's gone out there and put marshmallows all over the peach trees. And they're talking to him about his marshmallow crop. And it's about a 7-10 minute video. And he's talking about how the rain's been so bad that he don't know if they're going to be able to make any crop. And it was economics class, and we were talking about supply and demand and things that affected. And Kill would take these two big sticks and use them to show the kids, when supply goes up, demand goes down, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So he shows them this video, because it was one of those new age teaching techniques we were supposed to use to just break up the monotony of lecture. So 2 or 3 of the kids are sitting there going, this ain't real. But the majority of the class is like, well, it's a news thing. He wouldn't be sure.
It's on the news.
Real. And Keel's up there just serious as a heart attack, just standing there watching it and explaining, now, what do y'all think this is going to do to that man's supply? Well, Coach, he said he got
and
they ain't going to have none. Well, what's the demand?
Price of marshmallows going up.
Marginal costs. And these 2 girls up front, one of them goes, man, Coach Kill, marshmallows don't grow on those damn trees. And the girl next to him, yeah, they do. Look, they right there. They growing on trees. And they got in a fight. And we finally had
right.
That was great.
Okay, folks. They're right. They're not. But I believe to this day there's got to be some kid from that class that is eating some marshmallows going, I remember when they almost didn't have no marshmallows. Coach Keel said.
And you and I's
the marshmallow tree.
You and I's favorite kid that we ever had in there, Hugh.
Hugh. Yes, Hugh could throw that baseball up there. Ride that thing up there about 46 miles an hour.
Y'all, we had this just a good old boy, just simple Jack, Hugh. And he would tell us that every year he was coming out for baseball. And he was like, yeah, I can run it up there pretty good. And Kill, of course, being Kill, stirring him up. Mm-hmm. Well, Hugh, how fast you reckon you throw it up there? I can run up there about 46 miles an hour. And one day this little girl said, well, Hugh, I don't know a lot about baseball, and even I know that ain't worth crap. Didn't Hugh have a band, Coach?
No, I don't know if he had
bought all the instruments.
Yeah. What did Hugh do? And he had the instruments and was going to start a band. I know he did buy a 4-wheeler and his parents financed it for $4,000, and it broke down a week after they had it and didn't run for like 3 years while they paid it off. What did Hugh do with the musical instruments?
Hugh bought those instruments, and because he was playing the guitar, and you asked Hugh why he bought the drums and everything else, because he couldn't do nothing but play the guitar. I mean, he couldn't play one instrument at a time. And he said, well, I'm going to get the band together, and if any of them quit the band, I'll still have the instruments, and I can still form another band. And you told him you thought that was you told him you thought that was a
brilliant idea. A brilliant idea, young man. That way,
you told him you said one of them old classic rock bands would still be together if they'd have done that.
Yeah. What's that? Oh God, the Hugh Band. I forgot the Hugh Band story. That's right. And I said, and it doesn't matter who your drummer is, you always gonna have the drums. He goes, that's right. That's right. That's right. Oh, and he was so fired up because I got a new truck. And he said, that's one of them where the blinkers, you just turn it on and it'll blink about 4 times and stop, Coach, when you're changing lanes. I said, really? He said, that's right. That's right. Golly, you. Oh, people miss out in the world. They we got a really good job. We get to meet all these kids and all these characters and do all this stuff. And the rest of the folks are out there darn selling stuff and working.
And the state of Georgia wants us to teach the Hughes of the world calculus.
Oh my gosh.
When all he wants to do is work on a truck.
That's it. He wants to work on a truck and work for a farmer, driving a tractor. And that's all. And somebody's got to drive that tractor. And it's you.
Well, let me ask you this. Who was the best, besides Charles Grant, Who was the best football player you coached? Not seen in person, but coached.
Coach.
Best high school football player.
Best high school. Oh gosh. Charles might not have been the best. He was. I coached. I'm gonna say I got 3 of them. The first one was at Calhoun County. Coached a guy named Jake Fleming. Jake went on and started offensive guard at Georgia for 3 years. He was 6'3", 220 when we got there, and he was going to his junior year, and he was like freakishly fast. I saw him pick up a fumble at clinch and go 80 yards and outrun all those animals. The next best one is a kid named Juwan Jones. Juwan Jones, he was number 99 for me at Miller County. Juwan was 6'1", 220, probably ran about a 4.5 40. He returned punts, played defensive end. And we were coming back from Clinch County. We'd been over there in a war. We used to have some wars with them. And he said, "Coach, I had 3 pancakes and 2 flips." I said, "Juwan, what the heck's a flip?" He said, a flip. Had a flip. I flipped him. Oh, okay. So Sunday, we're watching the film, and I tell Houston, my defensive coordinator, he said, Juwan was telling me about the flip. He said, "Yeah, he was telling me about that too." And we cut the film on, and sure enough, he hit 3 folks so hard that they did a flip, a literal flip. Like, he hit them face up, and they landed with their feet the other way on their stomachs, like a complete flip. I said, "Well, dang." And he was just a beast. The best football player I've ever coached was a guy named Cosby Salter. Cosby had a real smooth brain, but Cosby could do anything. He could play offense, defense, run the ball, catch the ball. He had the best ball skills I've ever seen. He couldn't pass. Back then you had to pass the SAT and all that. And he went to a junior college out in California. I don't know how I found it, but it did. And he went out there and stayed about a month and was just ungodly, and then came home. So he's walking around Colquitt somewhere right now, but he is by far the best football player. Not the best athlete maybe, but the best football player I've ever seen.
Who was the best you coached against?
Oh, the best I ever coached against. Oh, goodness gracious. I know. There's 2 of them. They both played for Macon County back in the early 90s. One was named Plant, not Robert Plant. He plays for Pink Floyd. What was his name? His last name was Plant. And the other kid went to Georgia, and I have forgotten his name.
Roquan.
No, it was way before him. This is the early 90s. He started at Georgia. Plant had to go to Georgia Military, or Middle Georgia, I think might have had a team back then. Anyway, he got in trouble there, but they were both 6'4", 240, and could run like deer. Plant, they played a 5-2. Plant played the inside linebacker, and this other kid, we called him Abdullah the Butcher. It was a wrestler 100 lifetimes ago. And, it's not Cornelius Elmore, because he played at Charlton. I forgot this kid's name. But they were the 2 best football players I'd ever seen. It ain't like you, what's the guy, Reed, that you saw play? No, what was his name? The one that Barry.
Oh, yeah. Eric Berry.
Eric Berry, that's yours, isn't it?
He was pretty good. Megatron, he was good. I mean, different though.
I coached against Boss Bailey.
Yeah,
Down
he
there at
wasn't
Charlton.
bad.
He was pretty. He wasn't bad. He caught a punt down there at Charlton. He caught a punt on us and hit the sideline and came down and literally kicked the yard marker out of the guy's hands. The chains, kicked it out of his hand and scored a touchdown. And then the referee still saying touchdown. Said, no, he didn't run out of bounds far enough or something. I don't know, but all I know is on film, you can see him knock the stick out of the man's hand when he runs by. So, but he's pretty good too.
Well,
Pretty good.
where's the best place you've worked, or they've all been good?
They've all been good. They've all been good. You know, I have been fortunate enough to be in situations where the 8 to 3 o'clock has been good. And then the football is just icing on the cake. You know, if you can work somewhere where you don't mind getting up and going to work and going through the day and going through class and all, then the football is going to be good. It really is. All of them have been pretty good. I don't know. And at different times, you know, one might be a little bit better than another. My first 3 years at Calhoun County were wonderful. All my years to the last 2 were wonderful at Miller County. My time at Early County has just been outstanding. So I think that, I don't know if it's luck or you just have to look. You know, you gotta kind of look and see. Because a lot of times what's on the outside ain't what's on the inside. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I had somebody ask me today that's moved down here, and he's been in the college game. He's been in Georgia for a couple of years, and he said he thought he was ready to be a head coach. And he wanted my advice as to what, you know, I thought he should do, or, you know, just anything I could tell him that might help him. And I was like, well, I'll send you the presentation I gave, you know, listen to my podcast when I talk about it, because, you know, there's a lot of things. And the number one thing I told him was to choose wisely, because these days, I don't know if you get another opportunity if you go somewhere and you can't get it right. But then again, your first one might not be the greatest place on earth. I mean,
a lot of folks come in and coach for 2 years, 3 years, and think, hey, I'm ready to be a head coach. Well, let me tell you, I coached 2 years of football in Westwood, and then 3 years at Calhoun, then I became a head coach. I didn't know what was going on. I thought I did. But you are not ready for what comes with being a head coach. Between dealing with little stuff like equipment, scheduling practice, pregame meals, you know, then you got to deal with parents. A long time ago, at Ronnie McNeese, he had a pond house. And the coaches from Bainbridge and Seminole County and Miller County and Early County, we would meet out there at the pond house and eat fish and talk football and consume adult beverages. Well, one night we decided we were going to figure out the best coaching job on the planet. Of course, it was late and the adult beverages were flowing freely. So we came up with this: an Amish orphanage for boys in Hawaii. And this is why that's the best job on the planet. Amish orphanage for boys in Hawaii. Best job. All right? Amish because they work hard. They're hard workers. Orphanage because you don't have to deal with parents. No parents. For boys because you add girls in the situation and the boys go crazy. In Hawaii because it's Hawaii. Come on.
yeah, I mean, that sounds like y'all had it figured out.
Oh, it took a while, and we actually had like a board, and we were scratching stuff off, you know. and I actually the Amish orphanage for boys, we got it pretty quick, but we never could figure out where. And finally, one of the boys from Bangor said, "Well, crap! I just want to live in Hawaii." And we went, "You're absolutely right. So do we." So that was where we. And if that job exists, I'm sending my resume tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
that would be great. Well, how much longer are you going to keep doing this?
That's a good question. People ask me that. I could have walked away 3.5 years ago. I could have jumped. I'm right here on the river, literally on the river, and so I'm close to Alabama. I think I might try to peg out at 40 years in Georgia, but I don't know. I feel good. My health's good. I'm enjoying the job. I'm enjoying the children. I work with really good people. Now that might change tomorrow. I might go in there and the apocalypse has struck Early County and crazy stuff's happening, but I don't think so. And so as long as I got, everything going good and I don't mind getting up, I think I'm going to hang with it.
Well, that's awesome, man. I sure have enjoyed talking with you. I'm glad you could be on and share some stories with us. Love to have you back on because we just scratched the surface of 33 years of foolishness and nonsense and smooth brains and alien abductions and zombie apocalypse.
Oh, they're everywhere. Mm-hmm.
And
it happens. It happens. Look around. Look around. Don't believe me? Look around.
And I can't wait.
And we need to do more. We need to do this again. I've enjoyed it too.
And I can't wait till we get together and play golf again, whether it's down there at the state park or you finally come up here. And we ain't far from Americus now. When you go see them grandbabies, you can just ride on over here to Hawkinsville and we'll play golf. I mean, I live on a golf course. I have my own golf cart now. We throw them on the back.
There you go, up to the Ville. Well, that's true.
You got an open invitation.
There you go.
Anyway, Coach, I sure do appreciate it.
All right.
And we will talk to you later.